Elias Thorne wiped the sweat from his brow as he trudged across the red, dusty plains of Vera 9. The planet was harsh, with jagged rocks and bitter winds that cut through his thin jacket like knives. He had been traveling for hours, searching for the rare crystals that the human colonies needed to survive. Every step felt heavy, but he kept moving. Humans depended on people like him, strong, determined, willing to risk everything for survival. The sky above him was a dull orange, clouds of dust swirling like ghosts. In the distance, a low rumble echoed through the mountains. Elias froze. It wasn't the wind. Something was moving. His pulse quickened. He squinted and saw a faint flicker of light coming from a narrow crack in the rock face ahead. Curiosity mixed with caution. Most humans would have ignored it, but Elias had a stubborn mind and an unshakable sense of responsibility. Whatever it was, he had to check. He climbed carefully, gripping rough stone and balancing on unstable ground. The crack widened, forming a small entrance to a cave. Inside, it was darker than he expected, but a soft, high-pitched sound reached his ears. At first, he thought it was just the wind whistling through the rocks. Then he heard it again, a tiny, desperate cry. His heart jumped. The sound was alive. It was weak but full of fear. Elias took a deep breath and stepped inside. The cave smelled of damp earth and something strange, almost sweet, like burning honey. The walls glimmered with mineral deposits that reflected his flashlight in tiny sparks. He followed the cries deeper, the noise growing louder, urgent. And then he saw it. A small dragon hatchling was trapped under a pile of fallen stones. Its scales were faintly glowing, soft silver with streaks of blue. Its tiny wings twitched uselessly, and its eyes were wide, filled with pain and fear. The creature was no bigger than a human child, but its presence made Elias feel something he hadn't felt in a long time, awe. Here was life, rare and fragile, hiding in a world so harsh it had almost been crushed before it even began. Elias dropped to his knees. "Hey, it's okay," he whispered, his voice shaking. The hatchling tilted its head, unsure if it should trust him. He studied the stones holding it down. They were heavy and sharp. One wrong move, and the little creature could be crushed further, or worse. But he couldn't leave it here. He wouldn't. He pulled off his jacket and wrapped it around his hands to protect them from the jagged rocks. Carefully, he lifted the stones one by one. The hatchling whimpered each time a stone moved, its cries piercing Elias's chest like knives. Sweat dripped down his face, but he didn't stop. Slowly, painfully, he cleared the debris. When the last rock was moved, the hatchling tumbled onto the cave floor, trembling but alive. Elias's hands shook as he leaned back against the cave wall. He had saved it, but just for a moment, relief didn't come. The hatchling's eyes locked on him, unblinking, and Elias felt a strange connection. It wasn't just fear anymore. The little creature seemed to recognize something in him, a protector, maybe even a friend. A sudden noise made him freeze. The ground rumbled again, heavier this time. He looked up. The cave ceiling above them was cracked, lines running like spiderwebs across the rock. Dust fell in tiny clouds. His stomach dropped. The cave wasn't stable. If they didn't leave quickly, it could collapse. He glanced at the hatchling. Its small body was shivering, wings folding against its sides. Elias could carry it, but the passages were narrow and the rocks unstable. He needed a plan. He couldn't just run blindly. But even as the danger pressed in, he made a decision. He would not abandon this creature. Not now, not ever. Elias scooped the hatchling into his arms. Its weight was light, almost nothing, but its warmth was comforting. He whispered to it again, softly, "I've got you. We'll get out of here." The hatchling nuzzled his chest, its tiny claws gripping his jacket. For the first time in days, Elias felt hope. A fragile hope, but real. Then the rumbling grew louder, louder than before. Dust and small rocks began to fall from the ceiling. The cave was shaking, warning them that time was short. Elias gritted his teeth and moved carefully, step by step, through the narrow passage. He could feel every stone beneath his boots, every crack in the rock above. One wrong move, and it could all come crashing down. The hatchling whimpered again, tiny but urgent. Elias's heart ached. He whispered to it, trying to calm both himself and the creature. Almost there, his voice barely sounded above the rumble. He forced his legs to move faster, carrying the life of this fragile, glowing dragon in his arms. Finally, he saw daylight. The cave mouth was ahead, small but clear. He pushed himself harder, ignoring the pain in his arms and the sweat burning his eyes. With one last step, he emerged into the open, gasping for air. The hatchling squirmed, but it was safe. Elias dropped to his knees outside, panting. He looked down at the tiny creature. Its eyes shone, not with fear this time, but something else, something almost human. Recognition. Gratitude. Honor, unspoken but felt. For a moment, Elias just held it, both of them silent, listening to the wind of Vera, 9. Somewhere in the distance, the mountains rumbled again, a reminder that danger was never far. But right now, for this moment, he had saved a life. And in doing so, he had begun a story that neither he nor the hatchling would ever forget. Elias stood outside the cave, the hatchling cradled carefully in his arms. Its tiny body was warm, trembling slightly, and he could feel the rapid heartbeat against his chest. He looked back at the cave mouth. The rocks above had shifted, thin cracks now running across the ceiling like spider webs. A wrong move and the whole place could collapse. He knew staying too long was dangerous, but leaving it alone in the rough open world wasn't an option either. The hatchling chirped softly, blinking up at him with wide, silver-blue eyes. It was as if it understood the danger but trusted him completely. Elias swallowed hard. He had faced many risks before, but never like this. This creature was fragile, defenseless, and yet, somehow, he felt responsible for its life more than his own. A low sound echoed from the distance, sharp and mechanical. Elias's pulse jumped. He raised his head and saw the glint of alien patrol drones moving across the red plains. These weren't friendly visitors. They hunted humans. The colonists had warned him about them, and he had seen the evidence: burned-out ships, charred remains, and screams that haunted his dreams. Now, they were heading straight for him. Elias cursed under his breath. He could try to hide, but there was nowhere safe. The hatchling was too weak to run fast, too small to fight. And the cave, if he went back inside, it might collapse. Time was slipping away like sand through his fingers. He glanced down at the hatchling again. Its little wings twitched, and its mouth opened as if it were trying to speak. Elias realized then that the creature depended entirely on him. A wave of determination filled him. Humans were survivors. Humans were fighters. And he would not let this creature die if he could help it. Not even for his own life. The ground rumbled beneath his boots. The cave trembled, dust falling in clouds. Every instinct screamed at him to move, to run, to save himself. But Elias held the hatchling tighter. He had to make a choice: risk his life for this fragile creature, or abandon it to the harsh world outside. His mind raced. Suddenly, a sharp flash of light exploded from the direction of the patrol drones. The ground shook violently, and a piece of the cave roof cracked above them. Elias barely had time to duck as small rocks fell around him. The hatchling whimpered. Fear and urgency coiled around his chest like a tight rope. He made his decision. There was no question, no hesitation. The hatchling came first. Humans had survived because they cared, because they chose courage even when it was dangerous. Elias stepped forward, moving toward the narrow path leading away from the cave mouth, using his body to shield the creature from falling rocks and energy blasts that streaked across the plains. A blast of alien energy cut through the air, striking the ground just a few meters from him. The shockwave knocked him off balance. He rolled, keeping the hatchling safe against his chest. Dust and stones pelted him, and he could feel the sting of cuts along his arms and face. The aliens were closing fast, relentless, but he refused to slow down. Each step was agony, but he would not drop it. The hatchling chirped again, tiny claws gripping his jacket. It was scared, but it was alive. And Elias realized something strange. The creature wasn't just weak. Its body emitted a faint glow, tiny sparks of light that pulsed in rhythm with its heartbeat. Almost instinctively, Elias shielded it from the worst of the blast, holding it as if he could merge his own strength with its fragile power. He looked up and saw the patrol drones descending, weapons ready. There were too many of them. Elias's heart pounded, but his mind was clear. He could fight, but he was outnumbered. He had no weapons left, just courage and the creature he had chosen to protect. And sometimes, courage was stronger than any weapon. The hatchling moved slightly in his arms, pressing against his chest. Elias could feel its tiny wings twitch, and something inside him stirred, a bond forming, unspoken but real. It was as if the creature knew that he would risk everything for it. That bond made him stronger. He wasn't just a human running from danger anymore, he was a protector. And protectors did not fail. A tremor ran through the ground again. The cave above rattled, loose rocks threatening to fall. Elias's eyes widened. The passage behind them might collapse at any moment. He had no choice. He had to move forward, straight into the open, and face whatever came. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. His arms ached, his lungs burned, and the alien patrol was almost upon them, but he kept walking, step by step, carrying the hatchling. Each moment stretched like eternity. Each breath was a struggle. But in his heart, there was no fear, not of the aliens, not of the cave, not even of death. Because some things were worth the risk. Some lives were worth any sacrifice. And this tiny dragon hatchling, trembling and glowing in his arms, was one of them. Elias tightened his grip, whispering, "I've got you. We'll make it." The hatchling chirped, soft and trusting. And for the first time, Elias felt that strange, unspoken honor forming between them, a promise that neither words nor danger could break. Elias stumbled through the rocky plains, his arms aching from holding the tiny hatchling. The sun hung low, casting long shadows across the red dust. Every step was heavy, but he refused to stop. The alien patrol was still out there, moving closer with each passing moment, but for now, the hatchling was alive, and that was all that mattered. He found a small depression in the ground, a natural shelter among jagged rocks. Gently, he lowered the creature onto the soft sand. The hatchling curled into a ball, its tiny wings folding over its glowing body. Elias watched it, amazed. The light pulsing from its scales wasn't just soft and pretty, it was warm. Almost comforting. He reached out and touched it gently. The glow intensified for a moment, then faded back to a soft shimmer. Elias's heart skipped. He had heard stories of dragon energy, of ancient creatures capable of healing and extraordinary feats, but he never believed them. And yet, here it was, glowing in his hands, alive because of his choice. A strange sense of awe filled him. The creature had survived because he had dared to risk everything for it. The hatchling opened its eyes, looking up at him with an intelligence that seemed far beyond its tiny size. It chirped softly, and Elias felt as if it were trying to communicate. Not with words, nothing human, but with something deeper, something emotional. The little dragon trusted him. And in that trust, Elias felt a bond forming, unspoken but strong. He leaned back against a rock, exhaustion hitting him like a wave. His lungs burned, his arms trembled, and every muscle ached. But when he glanced at the hatchling, he didn't feel weakness. He felt purpose. Humans survived because they dared, because they fought, because they carried responsibility even when it was painful. And right now, this tiny creature had become his responsibility. Suddenly, a tremor ran through the ground, sharp and unexpected. Elias's head snapped up. Rocks shifted nearby, and the wind carried an eerie hum that made his skin crawl. The hatchling chirped loudly, wings fluttering. Elias instinctively pressed his body closer to it, shielding it. And then it happened. A small burst of light escaped the hatchling's body, brighter and stronger than before. It moved like a pulse, following the rhythm of its heartbeat. The warmth spread across Elias's arms, filling him with a strange energy. Cuts on his hands stung, but the glow seemed to soothe them, almost healing the pain. Elias stared, his jaw dropping. The hatchling was helping him. Impossible, he whispered. He didn't know how it was possible, but he didn't care. Survival didn't wait for explanation. He carefully lifted the creature again. The glow pulsed stronger now, as if it recognized him, as if it knew he had saved its life. Elias felt something he hadn't felt in years, hope. Pure, fragile hope, glowing in the arms of a tiny dragon. The rumble of the alien patrol returned, sharper now, closer than before. Elias's pulse quickened, but he didn't panic. He stood, tucking the hatchling securely against his chest. He knew he couldn't outrun them. He didn't have the strength. But maybe he didn't have to. As he moved forward, the hatchling's glow pulsed again. A faint wave of energy spread outward, and Elias felt the sand under his boots vibrate. The patrol drones slowed for a moment, their sensors flickering, confused by the strange energy. He didn't understand it fully, but he realized one thing: the hatchling wasn't just a weak creature. It was powerful, far more than he had imagined. Elias pressed on, carefully navigating the uneven terrain. He kept low, moving behind rocks and depressions, letting the hatchling's energy guide him. Every time the creature's glow pulsed, it seemed to light a path, showing where it was safe to step. The thought made him smile faintly despite the fear. He had saved it, and now it was saving him too. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt strange under the alien sun. The hatchling chirped occasionally, nuzzling his chest, and Elias realized it was more than a creature. It was a partner, a small ally in a hostile world. The bond between them was unspoken but undeniable. He had risked everything to save it, and now it had chosen to protect him in return. Finally, he found a small ridge overlooking the plain. From here, he could see the patrol moving slowly, searching for him, unaware of the glowing creature in his arms. Elias took a deep breath, feeling the weight of exhaustion, fear, and hope pressing all at once. He realized something important: survival wasn't just about strength. It was about courage, compassion, and the willingness to risk yourself for others. The hatchling chirped again, a soft, melodic sound. Elias smiled faintly. "We'll make it," he whispered. It wasn't just a promise to himself, it was a promise to the small, glowing life in his arms. He didn't know what the future held. The alien patrol was still out there, the cave could collapse, and the world itself seemed determined to crush him at every turn. But Elias felt something stronger than fear. He had awakened something in this tiny creature, and in himself. Something unspoken, something powerful. A bond had formed, one of trust, courage, and unspoken honor. And Elias knew, deep down, that whatever came next, they would face it together. Elias and the hatchling moved carefully across the rocky plain. The sun had dipped lower, painting the sky in deep reds and purples. Dust swirled around them as they navigated jagged rocks and broken terrain. Every sound made Elias tense. He knew the alien patrol was still searching, their mechanical sensors cutting through the dim light. He could not let them catch the hatchling. Not now, not ever. The hatchling's glow pulsed softly against his chest, lighting the path ahead. Elias marveled at it again. Its small body radiated warmth and energy, almost like it was alive in two ways, physically and spiritually. He had rescued it, yes, but now it was guiding him. It was as if it understood the danger, the urgency, and the need to survive. A deep sense of pride filled Elias. Humanity had survived because of courage, and here he was, proving that courage could still save even the smallest lives. They reached a narrow gorge, cliffs rising high on either side. The hatchling chirped softly, wings fluttering as if trying to point out the safest path. Elias followed, moving slowly. He could see sharp rocks that might injure them if they stumbled. The hatchling's glow brightened when they approached safer spots, and he realized it was guiding him. His heart swelled. This small creature, saved by his hands, was now saving him. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the gorge. Elias froze. Above them, a piece of rock broke free, tumbling down toward them. Instinctively, he pushed the hatchling behind him, letting his body take the impact. The rock hit the ground with a heavy crash, scattering dust and debris. The hatchling chirped in fear, but Elias smiled faintly, brushing the dust from his jacket. "You're stronger than you look," he whispered, keeping his eyes on the path ahead. Hours passed as they moved through the gorge and across the plains. Elias could feel exhaustion in every muscle, but the hatchling stayed close, its warmth and soft glow a constant comfort. He realized that they were no longer just human and dragon, they were partners. The bond between them grew stronger with every step. They understood each other in ways that words could not express. As night fell, the temperature dropped sharply. Elias found a small cave, just big enough for him and the hatchling. He placed the creature gently on the ground. It curled up, glowing softly in the darkness. Elias wrapped his jacket around it for warmth, his hands lingering on its small body for a moment. He could feel its heartbeat matching his own. "You'll survive," he whispered, "because we survived together." The night was quiet, but tension never fully left. The alien patrol was still out there, somewhere in the darkness, searching. Elias kept watch while the hatchling rested, its glow dim but steady. He realized that despite its small size, it had given him something humans rarely had, a reason to fight beyond himself. Courage alone was not enough. Hope and connection made him stronger, sharper, faster. As he looked at the hatchling, he noticed something new. Tiny sparks of light traveled along its wings, pulsing in rhythm with its soft chirps. Elias reached out and touched one of the glowing strands. A warmth spread through his hand, as if the creature was sharing strength with him. He felt cuts on his hands heal slightly, the fatigue in his muscles lessen. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but he knew it was real. The hatchling chirped softly again, nudging him gently with its head. Elias smiled, realizing that it had chosen him as much as he had chosen it. This tiny life, so fragile and small, had become a partner in survival. And he would protect it, no matter the cost. Morning came slowly, painting the world in pale gold. Elias stood, carrying the hatchling again, and surveyed the terrain ahead. The alien patrol was nowhere in sight for now, but he knew they would not give up easily. The hatchling's glow pulsed brighter in his arms, and he realized that the creature was preparing itself too, somehow sensing danger before it arrived. Together, they had a silent understanding. Together, they could survive. Suddenly, movement caught his eye, small rocks tumbling down a distant slope. The patrol was returning, faster this time. Elias's heart raced, but he did not panic. He adjusted the hatchling in his arms, holding it closer, and whispered, "We fight, we survive. Together." The hatchling responded with a soft, urgent chirp, wings fluttering like tiny signals. Elias smiled faintly. Its energy had grown, subtle but noticeable. He could feel it, an ally, a protector, and a bond that could not be broken. Step by step, they moved toward a safer pass through the rocky hills. Elias led with caution, guided by the hatchling's light, feeling something new, not fear, not doubt, but determination. Humans had always survived against impossible odds, and now, with this small dragon by his side, he knew that courage could create more than survival, it could create trust, connection, and unspoken honor. And in the quiet of the morning plains, under the alien sun, Elias felt that bond strengthen. They were no longer just a man and a creature. They were partners, bound by choice, sacrifice, and courage. Whatever came next, whatever dangers lay ahead, they would face it together. And that thought gave him hope stronger than any weapon, brighter than any star, and deeper than any fear. Elias ran across the jagged plain, the hatchling clutched tightly against his chest. The alien patrol was close now, their sensors blinking red in the distance. He could hear the low hum of their weapons, the mechanical whirring growing louder. There was no escape by speed alone. He had to fight, or the hatchling would be lost. The hatchling chirped, its small body glowing brighter with each pulse. Elias realized it wasn't just light, it was energy. Warm, fierce, protective energy that seemed to respond to his heartbeat. He tightened his grip, whispering, "We survive. Together." The creature's wings twitched, ready, as if it understood every word. The patrol drones spread out, forming a semicircle around him. They fired, energy bolts cutting the air with lethal precision. Elias ducked behind a rock, shielding the hatchling. Sparks of alien fire bounced off the stone. He had no weapons left, nothing but courage, wits, and the tiny dragon in his arms. And courage, he reminded himself, had always been humanity's greatest weapon. A bolt of energy struck the ground near him, sending a shockwave that rattled his bones. Elias pressed the hatchling closer, and then he felt it. A surge of warmth from the creature, like a small sun in his arms. The glow pulsed faster, spreading outward in waves. The energy knocked the nearest drones backward, sending sparks and smoke into the air. Elias's eyes widened. The hatchling, it could fight. He stood, moving forward cautiously. The drones fired again, but every time, the hatchling's glow met the attack, creating a barrier of light. Elias didn't fully understand how it worked, but he didn't need to. He had made a choice to protect this life, and now, the hatchling was protecting him. Together, they were a force the aliens had not anticipated. The largest drone advanced, its weapons aimed directly at them. Elias felt a chill, but he didn't flinch. He planted his feet, whispering to the hatchling, "Now. Do it." The hatchling opened its tiny mouth and let out a high, piercing roar. Light exploded from its body, brighter than the sun reflecting on the red dust. The energy surged outward in a wave, hitting the drones like a tidal force. Sparks flew, circuits fried, and one by one, the machines fell, disabled but not destroyed. The aliens had underestimated the bond between human and creature, the courage of a man who had risked everything for a fragile life. Elias stumbled but held the hatchling close. It chirped softly, wings fluttering against his chest. He felt the warmth of its energy seep into him, healing scratches and easing pain. The glow dimmed slightly but remained steady, as if the creature was acknowledging his bravery, his sacrifice. The patrol was broken, but not gone. He knew they would regroup. Elias scanned the horizon and saw more drones rising from behind the rocks, weapons ready. But he wasn't afraid. Not completely. Not anymore. The hatchling's presence, its trust, its power, they had created something stronger than fear. They had created unspoken honor. He stepped forward, careful but determined. "We're not running," he said quietly. "We fight if we have to." The hatchling chirped again, a tiny, sharp sound like agreement. They moved as one, human and dragon, weaving through the rocks, using every instinct, every pulse of energy, every moment of courage to survive. The drones advanced, but Elias was ready. The hatchling's glow intensified, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. Each wave of light pushed the machines back, forcing them to scatter, disrupting their coordination. Elias felt a surge of hope he hadn't known he still possessed. They could survive. They would survive. Then the largest drone fired again, aiming directly at him. Elias felt the heat of the beam on his arm, and instinctively, he pressed the hatchling closer. Light exploded from the creature in a brilliant wave, striking the drone. It sputtered, twisted, and fell, silent and powerless. Elias fell to his knees, breathing hard. He looked down at the hatchling, glowing faintly, wings trembling. "You did it," he whispered. "We did it." For a long moment, they were silent. The patrol was gone, the plane quiet except for the wind. Elias realized he could feel the creature's heartbeat, its energy coursing alongside his own. There were no words, no need for them. The hatchling's glow pulsed softly, like a heartbeat echoing his own, acknowledging the bond they had formed. He lifted it gently, cradling it against his chest. The creature's eyes met his, wide and silver blue, and in that glance, Elias felt a profound truth: bravery, sacrifice, and honor were not always spoken. Sometimes, they were felt, understood, and shared without words. He had risked his life to protect this small, fragile being, and in return, it had saved him. Together, they had created something extraordinary. Elias stood slowly, looking over the plain. The sun was rising, painting the world in pale gold. For the first time in days, he felt a sense of peace. The alien threat was still out there, but it no longer mattered. He and the hatchling had survived, together. They had formed a bond of trust, courage, and unspoken honor, one that no enemy could destroy, one that no words could capture. As he walked across the plain, the hatchling glowing softly in his arms, Elias understood something important. Humans had always survived because of courage, but survival alone was not enough. Honor, compassion, and sacrifice made them extraordinary. And in saving this tiny dragon, he had proven that humanity could create hope, inspire loyalty, and fight with a strength that no enemy, no matter how advanced, could match. The hatchling chirped softly again, wings fluttering against his chest. Elias smiled faintly. Together, they would face whatever came next. Together, they had created a story of courage, trust, and unspoken honor, a story that would not be forgotten.